question over here.
I'm going to put this question over to all three of you. We've been told there's a high more people coming. We know they're coming. We've also been told that the express lanes are not being built at the standards, no trucks. We talked about direct line to Charlotte, and it really wouldn't impact that. But with tractor trailers, and I've got 27 years plus in transportation, with just the Air Force, with all the tractor trailers, I feel more people coming. And intermodal terminal at Charlotte Douglas, you've changed it last Friday with 30 entry points and exit points on the expressway. Trucks in the right lane going through northbound, southbound. What are we going to do about the truck traffic? 90% of truckers are owner operators. They don't have a lobby. They're just sitting in traffic, doing their small business on their computers, and they're the ones in traffic. You thought it, we brought it to you. That's interstate commerce. It's going to affect Charlotte. It's going to affect everybody in UPS, FedEx, all the big guys. But owner operators are the ones that will be setting congestion. Big guys could pay if you went in the toll lanes, but based on what you said, there is no plans for those trucks to get inside the express lane. So what is the solution, say, 5 years out from now? With all the truck traffic cones, congestions are, we know there's going to be congestion. We've got this massive pileup of truckers in the right lane.
Anybody want to take that one?
I'll just add a quick comment. When you think about the red line, we talked about the red line. The reason why the red line is sort of frozen is Norfolk Southern doesn't want to negotiate effectively for a red line, a commuter line to the north. One of the reasons they likely don't want to negotiate, they recognize that that's the way that they're going to be able to move freight. They can't use trucks on the road reliably, but they can continue to use the rail line that they already own to move their freight.
I have one more interesting thing. When we talk about mass transit, a couple of pieces. One, you hear a lot about these people who did a tax repeal back in 2007. Okay, well, I am those people. And everybody thinks I was against mass transit. The reason that I was against it was because it financially didn't make any sense. A very, very, very smart guy by the name of Dr. John Sylvia, chief economist for Wells Fargo, he was chief economist for Wachovia at the time, took me aside and said, you don't build a 30-year railroad with a retail sales tax. You also found that when we were told a half-cent sales tax would build 5 corridors, it'll build 2. Well, the reason they didn't worry about the red line was because they knew they weren't going to have to deal with it. They've got 2 corridors. Now, one of the things I hear now is, okay, Jim, what's your answer? We have to have mass transit. So where can we put mass transit? If we can't use Norfolk Southern's train, why don't we build an elevated train along I-77? And that seems like a pretty reasonable idea. What if we took the existing right-of-way and just built above the congestion? But what got missed in the reading of the contract is Centra owns the air rights above the I-77 corridor. So you can't build unless you compensate because they own the air rights above I-77. That's the stuff you find out down the road. So we can't build a rail line because Norfolk Southern, they are in the train business and they don't necessarily want their trains to have to stop and go with commuter rail lines. And you can't build it along I-77 because you gave up the air rights. So I'm not real sure where the mass transit goes, other than Scott, who, by the way, as I've been battling this for 3 years now, I will tell you that the most helpful, the most courteous people I've dealt with are the engineers with NCDOT. Management, not so much, but the engineering staff with NCDOT has been brutally honest every time I've ever talked to them. And they tend to get beat up out here. So I appreciate their honesty. But when we talk about a mass transit option, there isn't one other than Scott is right. The mass transit option is express bus lanes, tow lanes. So we will now have all the 4 slobs the Lexuses, and some buses, because they don't have a train. And that's why you have this plan. So be very careful, because it's coming to a
I
neighborhood.
have a gentle lady over here who wants to ask a question.
So actually, I was,
She's not a gentle lady, and that's a compliment.
The mayor.
I was just going to provide some insight to the question about trucks. You know, I came into all this discussion at the 11th hour. I've been working very hard to get updated. I do believe that there is flexibility, especially because citizens have been heard and they've raised some good points, and the trucks were one of those. Because the mayor of Davidson and Mayor Cornelius went to Texas and looked at how their managed lanes work. They do use trucks. They let the trucks use the managed lanes in Texas. Trucks have payloads, they gotta deliver at a certain time. They're willing to pay a little more to get that done because time is money when you're shipping goods. So that question about, is it worth it to add some more inches of asphalt to have that flexibility, even if they don't start that way, to have the flexibility in the future? That question has been asked of the State Board of Transportation, because I called Ned Kerr and asked him. And they are willing to talk about that. So, because we have seen that it works in other places. Now, do you want this, you know, there's safety issues and other things going on, doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen, but my point is that I do believe there is some flexibility in working with anybody who's done a construction project that is many miles and multi-years, knows that when you run into things, you change, you have some changes that have to happen because of terrain and other things. Same is true when you're working with a contract. So my hope is that citizens are not going to feel like everything is a done deal, but will continue to ask questions about challenges, about new ideas, about better ways to work it as all these projects go forward. And as an elected official who represents all of Charlotte and all of our region, by the way, because we are interdependent, and people in Charlotte do absolutely care about South Mecklenburg, even outside the city limits, and North Mecklenburg outside the city limits. I care about Gaston County and Irondale and Union. I care about all of those folks because we are all interconnected. We have commuters who are living and working and teaching our children in different places, and I want all of our regions to work. So I would just encourage folks not to feel like everything is a done deal, to stay in conversation, and to continue to provide reasonable ideas that will be listened to. And in terms of the red line, there are still a lot of advocates for that red line. There are still a lot of people who care very deeply about having a transit option that doesn't have to be a monorail, that can actually use that. And there are, you know, we're looking at long-term solutions, but all of these are long-term. And I'm going to continue to be an advocate for that as well. So I just wanted to add that about the truck question because that's a good point.